Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the Leen Eats Paudcast. We promised ourselves we wouldn't do it, but the double intro is back once again as myself and Paudie take a look at a few things that we wish we knew when we started our own respective athletic careers. And this was an episode that I was really excited to record, and I really enjoyed recording it, just as I felt when I was younger that I made so many clear to see mistakes that I wish I had the resources there at the time to just make me see that this is a common mistake that a lot of people make, that you might think you're doing the right thing but you're not. This is what you should be doing instead. I probably did get the guidance at the time. When you're 13, 14, 15, it's going to be very hard to listen to someone telling you you're doing the wrong thing, and you might be seeing some results. You can become quite stubborn and quite single-minded on what you're doing. I think it's the same for anyone who is starting in the gym, who is starting to run. Criticism can be a tough thing to take, but a lot of the time it is going to be constructive. And I do encourage anyone who is starting to go to the gym, who's starting to run, doesn't even need to be competitively, to listen to this. And if you're making any of these mistakes, do try to work on it and change your routine, because it is only going to help you for the better. If you do find that you've used anything here and it's worked for you, please let us know, because we'd be delighted to hear that someone's gotten something out of this podcast. But yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and as always, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. After a long hiatus, we're here for episode 6 of the Leen Eats Podcast. Back after we had our first special guest on in the episode with Nick Littlehales. If anyone hasn't seen that, we really would encourage you to check it out. And as well, thanks to everybody that did check it out and that shared across social media. Really did appreciate that. And today we're both going to give a small bit of an insight into our own athletic careers. One of the strengths for our podcast is that I'm an endurance athlete and Paudie is a strength athlete. As we say in our bio, like, strength meets endurance in this podcast, and you get to see like both sides of the coin. Really are like two things in sports or in fitness that people really do strive for. So we can give you unique perspectives in that I am completely focused on endurance, Paudie's completely focused on strength. But Paudie, how's it going? How's your Sunday? What sort of training were you getting up to over the weekend?
Going well now. I'm kind of just getting back into the gym now after a very light 2 weeks, especially with exams. Exams are just finished there last Tuesday, so I did a small leg session today, first legs session in 2 weeks, so it was rough. Just a bit of kind of, so it was light stuff, getting back into it properly. That's it, hoping to kind of get back into a routine now once gym's open as well in June. So getting back to maybe 4 or 5 days a week instead of just one or two.
It's quite mad though that you're able to keep it up through the whole of lockdown. I'd say there's a lot of jealous people out there, and I'm definitely one of them. I can't wait for June 7th, get in, hit the bench press. It's good to see from Paudie there as well that he's clearly not skipping leg day. I know there's a few of you out there, if you're listening, don't do it, don't skip it, do stick to it. Today, myself, I was just hit out an easy 10 miler just to kind of get a bit of miles in the legs. Had a training session on the track yesterday. I don't know about you, Paudie, would you find like when you get to the gym and stuff, it's a big adaptation when you get like back being with the weight inside the gym? But I found training on the track compared to training on the road, it's so much for like your mind to adapt to, and even for your legs to adapt to when you start wearing the spikes and stuff. It takes a bit of a toll on you. Do you have any competitions coming up, or what's your goal for the season?
I'm supposed to have a competition now in August, so for powerlifting, it's just going to be again the 93 kilo weight class for juniors. Hopefully that goes ahead. It should go ahead really in August. I'm pretty sure most people should be vaccinated by then. I'll have Munsters should be on around October, November, and just going to aiming towards that. Have a few short term goals now at the moment. Trying to hit certain PBs, certain lifts per reps every maybe 4 or 5 weeks, and then hopefully by November, when Munsters comes around, I can do something big. What about yourself? Anything coming up?
Hopefully now give the 5k a bit of a lash once races start up again in the summer. Hopefully come June or July, have national seniors there scheduled in for June. Really hoping to just convert all the hard training over the last year or so into an actual race. It can be so hard after so long being out of competing and being with other people in races to actually like bring your mind back to that state. So really going to have to try adapt to that as well. But hopefully give the 4 minute mark in 1500 a bit of a go. That's been eluding me for quite a while. Get it off my back and try and tackle the 800 and 3k, but really just stay consistent over the summer. And I just can't wait to get back racing, because really at the end of the day, that's what we train for. We train to compete. Just having made it through from lockdown yourself, Paudie, since last year, managing to train so consistently, do you have any tips for anyone that say is finding they're a bit disillusioned even at the moment that, say, the gyms aren't open yet, and not even from a competitive sense, but they do want to just stay in touch with like lifting weights, and they might not have access to the same facilities that myself and yourself might have, but they're still trying to stay consistent. Do you have any like tips to help them keep their mindset going to like get them ready for when the gyms do open and just be that step ahead?
Well, I suppose the main thing is don't be worried about if your lifts have gone down. Like if you were into the gym before lockdown and you're just waiting for it to open again in June, everyone's going to be on the same boat, really. Well, most people will as well. If you are looking, for equipment, you don't have to spend a fortune of money for home equipment. Like one weight plate, you can do so much. Like I'll be putting videos up as well soon. I'll start getting into videos again during the summer on my Instagram page. You can do so much with one weight plate. Like even if you pick up a 15 kilo, like you can do curls with it, you can do tricep extensions, you can do bench press with it. Close grip bench press. There's so much you can do with one weight plate. So I recommend highly, like if you are for the next 2 or 3 weeks before the gyms open up, try to get your hands on even just one weight plate or even a concrete block from the garden, whatever. It'll set some foundations for when it does open, and you should feel a lot better.
So one of the things that I picked up myself from my limited experience and my limited knowledge, like lifting weights and trying to stick to some sort of program like that, is that you really do need a routine. And the same goes with your running. It's very hard to like be consistent with it if you just very loosely say, wake up on a day and you suddenly feel motivated to do a workout and you only decided to do a workout then. Like I would say, try have some bit of a structure. Let's say you're going to hit a workout 3, 4 days a week and that you have those days planned in advance. It's going to be a lot easier to stick to it even when you don't feel motivated to do it. You're going to be more likely to just get it done and do factor in getting those rest days in as well. As Paudie was saying there, he's going to get his Instagram videos out. On the running side of things, for anyone that's looking into the future that's become quite disillusioned and hasn't been able to get any races or anything like that in, I would say just stay consistent with it. Make sure that you see that you're progressing yourself and set yourself small goals, because you can just hit time trials at the moment as well. And you can even see by like the amount of weeks that you stay consistent without getting injured, without getting sick, without losing the motivation. That's progress. So really do stick with it that way. One thing myself and Paudie are going to get into in today's episode is just looking at things we wish we knew when we started running and things that we wish we knew when we started going to the gym. And like, I can't wait to pick Paudie's brain on it because there's so many things I still don't know about the gym. And I'm sure there's plenty of things Paudie won't know about, like the endurance side of things with running. And it really is great because I feel like when myself and Paudie were starting off on our own sort of careers, there wasn't any like resources there in terms of like podcasts that would deliver you content on what things to look out for when you start and what things that you need to be mindful for and things that are just going to be part of the process that you realize aren't unique to you. But Paudie, when you started going to the gym, how did you actually get into the whole powerlifting scene? And what are some things that you wish you knew when you started?
So really, my gym started off when I was in first year. I started going to the gym, just doing some push-ups, maybe a bit of cardio and stuff like that. All not really weights. I didn't really touch weights until I was in third or fourth year, but I was doing it mostly at the start just to get a bit fitter, lose a bit of weight and all that. Then once I started throwing the hammer and the shot put, it I really put emphasis on strength. So I started lifting weights. Then I joined our Cork weightlifting team down the marina then for a year, and that's where really it all started to kick off. Like the gains I made there in 1 year, that was probably the second best year to date of gym for me, like where I saw the most progress. Then when I started college then in UCC, I saw they had the powerlifting team, so I went down to have a look at it. And ever since then, my focus has been on powerlifting. Like I loved it from the first day I joined. So ever since then, I'm in the gym just for powerlifting. Like I'm not in there anymore to lose weight or to focus on bodybuilding or anything. I'm just trying to get as strong as possible. And then one main thing, I suppose, I have four things written down of stuff that I wish I knew before I started the gym. And I suppose the main one that I have top of my list is always set a routine. So the main reason for setting a routine is you don't want to walk into the gym without a game plan, and you don't want to start the week without a structure. Because if you're starting the week without a structure and you're not sure what you're doing each day, things can get messy. Like you can end up training the same muscle group more than twice a week, and that won't help recovery. You might not account for rest days, or like if you plan ahead, you're just going to be able to fit everything in perfectly. So as you're getting rest in between leg days, you're not doing 2 leg days in a row. So as well, it prevents time wasting. So you know what you're hitting every single day. You're not just walking into the gym, not sure what you're going to do, not sure what muscle group you're doing for the day. And as well, it allows to track your progress. Like if you're setting a routine, you're doing, say, arms twice a week, legs twice a week. If you do the same arm exercises week in, week out for 4 or 5 weeks, you can track your progressive overload. So then you can really tell if you are progressing.
Getting into the gym, even till quite recently, I would just go in and see what was free. If the squat racks were free, I'd go and hit a bit of legs, and then I'd maybe hit a bit of bench press afterwards if that was free. And I wouldn't have much structure to it. And I'd find like I'd turn up to the track then on a Saturday and I'd be really tight. My coach would kill me. It was because I didn't really have that structure, and I'd nearly train every muscle group very loosely. And then there'd be times where, say, I wasn't training enough because I didn't have enough structure. And with what you're saying there about routine, like I think that's something that's very applicable to running as well. But even with, say, when you're looking at lifting weights and going to the gym, if you have that structure and routine behind you, I suppose there's probably like less mental resistance to actually going, actually executing your plan as well as you can. And you're also just avoiding overtraining and stuff there as well. And actually, one thing I've only found out recently, I think it's from talking to yourself, Paudie, is I didn't might come into the whole structure side of things and needing to have that good routine behind you in the gym. I didn't know that you're not supposed to train to failure every single time you go to the gym. I don't know where I'd gotten that idea from, but I used to find I'd go and do every exercise I did to failure. And I might be training the same muscle group so many times while I was like in the gym because I didn't have that correct structure behind me. Like, is there any few thoughts on that, or is there any advice you'd like to give on that?
Like I think that rest is very important for muscle growth. Like you need, I'm not sure the exact science behind it, but from watching other people like bodybuilders, powerlifters, strongmen's YouTube videos, they take a lot of rest. So if you're training to failure day in, day out, you're not going to give yourself time to recover and for your muscles to repair to be able to hit big numbers or hit PBs the next week or the week after. Like you, even with myself in the gym, I take very long rests. So if I'm doing some bench press, like if I'm doing a few reps of 100 kg, I'll take a break then for maybe 2 to 3 minutes rather than just 90 seconds. Like if you need to know what your goal is really, if it's to gain strength, just to be able to lift that 1 rep max, take as long a break as you need because in the long run, it will really help you out. Train to failure, it's not ideal. Like you will get very tired very quickly.
You were kind of touching on rep ranges there, buddy, and that's another thing that I haven't a clue about. Like, I always hear anyone that is into lifting talk about how, like, say with certain lifts, if you're targeting like different types of muscle growth, if say you're doing 5 reps, or if you're getting into like an 8 to 10 rep range, or like a 12 to 15 rep range, for anyone that's new to the gym or anyone that's starting off, what's the sort of science behind that, and like what are you hitting if you're doing certain rep ranges? Like,
If you're trying to gain strength, usually it's just to lift as heavy a weight as you can for 1 rep. If I'm training for strength, coming up to competitions, I do 4 sets of 3 to 5 reps, and even in some cases, I do 3 to 4 sets of 2 or 3 reps only. Then, if you're looking for more the kind of hypertrophy, so trying to build your muscles up, you won't be getting as strong, but you'll start to look good and you'll start to look bigger. That's more for, I suppose, aesthetics. You'd be looking for 8 to 10, 8 to 12 reps for that. Then, if you're looking, for endurance athletes, so if you are a marathon runner who needs to train legs, then you might be looking at 3 or 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps. So it's all about what your goal is. So if it's strength, heavier weights, less reps. If it's endurance, so if you need to maybe be, if you're looking to be a CrossFitter, or if you're looking to be a long distance runner or an ultra marathon runner, then it's going to be more reps. So on the complete opposite end of the scale. So the next thing, really a big thing for the gym is don't take bad days off. So if you're having a bad day, you might feel like just chilling out and doing nothing, sitting on front of the TV for the evening, eating food, even if you're not like eating a load of junk food, just sitting out and doing nothing. There's absolutely no benefit in that. Like if anything, it's going to be worse for you. Like if something bad happened to you during the day, or if your mind's in a bad place, like don't just chill out and do nothing, because you'll have way more time then to overthink the issue or the problem that happened that day. So really, on days, use those bad days to fuel your workout. Really, like just no need to just chill out. Like if you are having a bad day, go to the gym. If you have access to the gym, or even go for a run, like the benefits from that is just unreal. Like it'll fuel your workout. It might make you lift heavier. You know, if you've anger or something like that, it will just help as well. It'll clear your head, and you will feel like if you're ever having a bad day, go to the gym or go take your run, and you will feel a lot better that evening or that night. Like you'll sleep better. So yeah, like don't take bad days as rest days.
Yeah, that's actually very powerful, Paudie. I even see it with like doctors and many psychologists will actually say that like exercise is one of the best antidepressants just because you get that hit of dopamine, all those endorphins get released into your body, which are just going to help you feel positive and make you feel a bit better. But even with what you were saying there, I found that like a lot of the time when I get to the track, I'm going to nearly have to channel those emotions or say anything that's negative that's happened over the course of the week. You nearly have to keep that in the back of your mind, and it's like fuel to the fire and can really help you push through that barrier, push that next level, or even say getting out for an easy jog or getting out to the gym and just lifting some weights. You can really take your mind off things, like a form of escapism in a way, which I think is very important for your mental state too, especially in the modern day. I think Nick talked about it a lot last time. We'd be very stimulated. We're constantly overthinking things and overthinking issues, and that like when you start exercising, you do get put into this whole other world nearly. And I find like with running, you can get into a rhythm, and your mind can start flowing and start thinking. Maybe you'll find a solution to whatever happened. And obviously, if like you're going through something really mentally, like do seek out help, and there are so many avenues there too. But exercise can be a great way to help you deal with it in some way and help you to escape from that in another way as well. Is there anything else, Buddy, that say you're right into 15, 13-year-old you, and you had any questions on the gym or any mistakes you made that say the viewers out there can learn from your failures before they make the same mistakes themselves?
One big thing that I wish I knew, learn about food. Like if you're learning about the gym, going to the gym to exercise, you need to learn about food to kind of match your goal. Like if you are, when I was 13, obviously I was looking to lose weight. Like that was my main goal. I wasn't looking at to get stronger or anything, just to kind of look and feel better. But I wish I knew more about food, because I feel like back then when I was training, you know, I probably wasn't eating enough food at all, which isn't good for anyone. Like when you're first trying out to lose weight, like that might be one huge factor of how you lose the weight, is just not eating an awful lot of food. So if you are like starting off, learn about it, find a nutritionist, even use whatever social media. Like there's a lot of information up there online. Learn about food and know what you need to eat to meet your goals. Like even now, I find that working with Ben, like I've progressed an awful lot, because I don't know an awful lot about nutrition. So like a nutritionist like Ben helps me to just find out what I need. So I am looking to get stronger, of course. So Ben teaches me about protein and when to eat certain meals. Carbohydrates with creatine as well is a big thing that's helped, that I would never have known about. So yeah, find out about nutrition, because the gains are made in the kitchen, that's a quote that I've heard a lot over the years, and I still kind of live by that. It's just yeah, find out about food, because it will help you with whatever goal you need.
I do really appreciate those kind words, Buddy. That that phrase there you had about the I think it's like abs are made in the kitchen is what I heard when I was younger, and I remember that was probably my first foray into nutrition. Right when I heard that, my mind was nearly blown away a bit. I was like, "Whoa, geez! Like what you eat actually like affects how you are and how you feel." I remember I started eating healthy food, and it was mind blowing in a way. But I like yourself, Buddy. When I started running, I came at it from the perspective that like when I was younger, I was a bit heavier, and this probably ties into one of the first things I wish I knew about running is that like your weight is not the most important factor in your performance. And anyone that's been training with me for a while, especially when I was growing up before I ever started studying nutrition, I used to be experimenting with every single diet under the sun. Remember, I cut out carbohydrates from my diet for a good while. when I was 14 or 15 because someone on the internet had like articulated their words very well in the book. And as a 14, 15-year-old, like your mind's open to everything. And like once it's articulated and put this way to you, it's just gospel. And it's taken me so long to realize that, like, as Paudie was saying there, the carbohydrates are like your best source of energy. And if you're a runner, what I'm kind of getting at for the first thing I wish I knew is that, like, your diet is really, really important, but don't overcomplicate it either. Like, carbs are going to be king for a runner. I think a lot of runners are like sold this weight loss sort of diet, which is not what you're looking for at all if you want to perform well, because you're going to make sure you need to make sure you get enough calories to actually fuel your training, enough carbohydrates to power your muscles through the training and give you enough energy to like actually do your training sessions. And one thing I used to do when I was younger as well was I used to overcomplicate what I'd eat before and after I ran. So what I mean by that is, like, I'd get to a race or I'd get to a training session and I'd either have too much food or too little food because I'd be trying something I saw online. It took me so long to realize that, like, what you eat before you run is probably the least important meal in terms of affecting your performance. It's not going to suddenly give you this big performance boost. Like, maybe if you get caffeine in, you might get a boost out of that. But really, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're getting foods that sit well with your stomach, because any runner out there who's been running for some bit of time is going to know how it feels when you do like make a mistake with that, I suppose, and you get out running and your stomach hits you straight away, and they're the worst runs. They're the days I don't like running. So do just experiment around a bit at the start, see what works well for your body. I'd find leaving your pre-run meal to 4 hours before you go running is probably key. And then with, like Paudie was saying there, if you're looking for like your post-workout nutrition, try get that protein in if you're after a gym workout within 30 minutes of finishing your session, and get a bit of carbohydrates in with it as well. It's the same for running, because you're going to replace the carbohydrates that you've lost when you're exercising, and you're going to get that bit of an insulin spike, so your protein's going to get absorbed quicker. It's all about the 4-to-1 carb to protein ratio. And again, if you're looking for any questions on nutrition, please feel free to get on to me. Find me on Instagram at Leen Eats, or if you're listening to the podcast, just leave a comment on YouTube or just send us an email if you can find it on Spotify. Paudie, yourself, would like, when I know you're running yourself now and you're getting back into it and you use it as a form of cardio for your own training, is there anything that you have any misconceptions about, or something that you have questions about that you'd like to ask me?
Well, one big thing I suppose that I wouldn't know about cardio is if a strength athlete is trying to incorporate cardio into their routine, like if it's to make, say, weight for a powerlifting competition, or if it is just to decrease fat. Is there any specific form of cardio? Like, as well, is fasted cardio, like I see a lot on people's YouTube channels and stuff, like bodybuilders, that fasted cardio is this like magic formula that will your is it it'll they say it'll increase your metabolism for the day, like it will help to reduce your fat without decreasing muscle, like they say that. But what are your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't be with this whole fasted cardio thing at all if I'm honest with you, Paudie. If anything, it's like an exercise in your mental strength, and just being able to train without having any food on. It's going to be tough on you mentally, but any sort of like benefit you're going to get, like metabolism wise, is going to be outweighed massively by the fact that, for a start, your body's going to turn to your muscle and your fat stores for energy straight away. If you've got like low glycogen and you run out of glycogen, you're doing fasted cardio. Yeah, you might be losing a small bit of fat, but you're also going to be probably losing a bit more muscle than you will fat. So you're actually going to, if anything, negatively affect your performance in the long run. Any sort of metabolism benefits you get are going to be so minor as well. Like, that's something that you see quite a lot in the industry, is that, like, there'd be food boosting or metabolism boosting foods and like teas and stuff like that, and like it might boost your metabolism, but that could be like best ones of 30, 60 calories a day, and like extra that you're burning, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that much. Like, the main thing that affects your metabolism is actually your weight. So like, if you weigh more, like, a lot of the time your metabolism is, which is just like the amount of calories that you burn per day, it's going to be higher. Like, some people will have innate faster metabolisms because their body will just use more energy to carry out basic functions, but it's only going to be a small difference. And like, as you were saying there, Paudie, if you're trying to lose weight, main thing you're going to have to do is just to cut your calories. You can't outrun a bad diet, really. And if weight loss or fat loss is the goal, you do need to make sure that you're in a calorie deficit. As blunt as it may sound, that's the way it's going to be for 95% of people. As well, you also need to make sure you're getting enough protein in, because that's how you prevent muscle loss, and that's how you target your body to lose fat rather than the muscle. And again, as well as that, progress isn't going to be linear. It's not like you go into calorie deficit for a day or two and the weight will fall off. Like, your body weight's going to fluctuate quite a bit. And in terms of performance, like, you're not going to get this magical fat burning effect from like, say, fasted cardio. And if you're an endurance athlete like myself, like, you can use it for marathon training sometimes to like simulate what it's like when you get in to like actually use your fat stores as energy, but it's just going to negatively affect your performance for the majority of people. So really, really wouldn't recommend that. Um, One thing as well, Paudie, that you talked about in the gym side of things, and things you wish you knew for that, was having that structure behind you. And one thing I used to find when I was younger was that I used to have this mentality. It's probably very similar when you get to the gym, even, is that you get like these newbie gains, I think is the term they use. So when you start running, you start training a small bit, get your mileage up, start running a bit faster, you start to improve very quickly, and it can be very enticing. And you realize that like the more you train, the faster you get, the stronger you get. And then you can get into this cycle where, because you're very new to it and you're not very informed on it, you can train too hard and start training hard every single day. Like, I remember doing sessions with the club on a Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday, and then I do a training session at home afterwards. And then that's how you get into overtraining. That's how you get injured, and eventually your performance, it'll go up for a while. Like, I won't lie, especially in running side things, but you will eventually plateau or hit this big decline, and your performance is going to dip massively. So for anyone like that, I would say, first off, try and get a coach. I found working with Ken really, really helped me to just go a bit slower on my easy days, and he's still giving me stick about it. But like, say on your Wednesdays, Thursdays, days between sessions, just make sure you do get enough active recovery, and it's not rest in terms of like just not doing anything. Do get the miles in, do it at a conversational pace, and that's something I found so hard to like adapt to originally. And also, one thing I see in people that do start running as well, I don't know if you see this, probably with people maybe say only doing full body workouts when they go to the gym, but I'd see people say training for a 5K, only run a 5K day after day after day after day. And like, say if you're trying to get stronger, I imagine, in like, say if you're trying to get a stronger chest, you're going to have to train all the secondary muscles around it, not focus only on training the bench press. You see with like people running 5Ks, they'll just run a 5K day after day, but they won't focus on doing the faster stuff or the longer stuff. You need to really like vary your training. Like, is that something you'd find is quite common, Potty, from your own experience, or like the attitude you'd see of people starting off in the gym?
So, like as you said, there are people running 5Ks day in, day out if they're training for a 5K. I would see that a lot in the gym. People focusing on arms, especially coming up to the summer. The amount of people you see in the gym who don't touch a leg machine or squatting or anything, they're literally just training arms. You would see that because gains in your arms are one of the most noticeable things. Like if you're walking past a guy in a beater, you're going to notice their arms. Like if they have a vein or if they have, the tricep dense or whatever, you would see that a lot. But then again, that's not going to help with a lot of things. Like you will have stronger levers for deadlift or for bench press, but I do see a lot of people just training specific groups every day, and like they might have big arms, but then their chest might be small. Not like body shaming anyone or anything, but I am recommending that the people I see doing that, like if they could just, for their own sake, like hit legs a few times, maybe as well it's not their goal. Maybe they are just looking to look good and have big arms, but you would see it. You would see it a lot. It's not recommended because it will be out of proportion. Again, not body shaming people out of proportion or anything like that, but I would recommend. So even myself, like when I was younger, I was focusing on arms. Like I curled 3 or 4 days a week. Like again, there's no benefit in it at all. Like you should really only do train a muscle group twice a week. But that is something that you would see a lot. Like people just doing that constantly. Train legs, train chest, try and train everything. Like a bit of variation is great. Like variation will go a long way. And as well, if you are training chest, like I haven't trained arms, I'd say in 5 or 6 months. Like they're not huge. Like they're not even defined or anything. Like, but training bench press, like just pushing things around or deadlifting, will train your arms as well. So there's nothing to say like stay away from bench pressing or deadlifting if you're just looking to get big arms. Like variation is key too.
Too many men out there skipping leg day really can't be having it. Like I'd love if in ideal world I could just hop on the track every day and just do bench press for the rest of my life and improve performance wise. But unfortunately we don't live in that ideal world. And I suppose you get into periodization there as well, and that's a big topic we might get into in future, and like having that structure in your plan and making sure you do take enough rest days as well, because like one thing we say on this podcast so many times is like stress plus rest equals success. So like you do need to recover well and like have structure to your training, but obviously you do need to get those stressors in, and like when you're training your muscles, you're tearing your muscles and bringing them to failure a lot of the time. I know we're not doing that all the time, we've learned that today, but that's the stress you're placing on your body then. One big thing I found that I learned over my years running is that progress isn't linear, and it's something you could probably expect in the gym side of things as well. And what I mean by that is like, say, when you start training first, you're going to see big gains from off the bat. And that's natural because your body is just used to this new stimulus. And eventually your body's going to get used to the same stimulus and you're going to have to vary your training. That's where you get into not running the 5K every day. But even at that, eventually you are going to hit a bit of a plateau because your body can't just keep improving all the time. If it was that easy, we'd all be in the Olympics and we'd all be running the best times we can. We'd all be lifting really heavy weights, but you do need to stick at it and persevere. And eventually, like progress comes very quickly, and then you'll plateau again. Like I'd say there is a good 2 3 years, as I was saying to Paudie earlier, where like I just didn't improve at all, and now like thankfully I'm very grateful for it. But just staying consistent and sticking at training now, I'm in this position that hopefully I can have this platform to build off of for next year. And I know Body's probably the same now at the gym. Like you wouldn't improve your lifts week on week on week every time. Like there are times where you might actually fall back a bit, and there is times where your progress is just going to kind of flatline a small bit. And you shouldn't get too disheartened by it because it's a natural part of the process. And like one thing I find with running, particularly because you are training with people the whole time, and as well as that you're racing against people the whole time, you can kind of get caught up in like I was faster than this guy before, and now he's faster than me, and that's where you get into like comparison. It really is a thief of joy because you might still be progressing, but someone might be progressing slightly faster than you, and you might not value your performance in that way then. But you do really need to just realize that first off, everyone's built differently and everyone progresses at different rates. But eventually, if you do stick at it and you do train right and recover right, like the progress will come. But if you, have you found that yourself, Buddy? Have you ever like hit that bit of a rock that you just can't get past? You've hit that barrier and then eventually you did just push through it.
Yeah, I have. Like, I think mostly, like, I haven't seen as much plateauing in my lifts as I have in the last 10 months. Like, since gyms did close the second time there, like, I saw a video come up in my memories on Snapchat. I got my 137.5 kg bench press about 10 months ago. And since then, I haven't went to hit a PB. Like, I should have been looking to hit a PB 6 months later, but that will come again. Like, I had my short and long term goals. That 135 mark, which I broke by 2.5 kg, was my 1 year long term goal. And when I hit that, I was delighted. Like, and then since then, I've been plateauing. I've been doing 120 for 5 reps. I went to 110 for 8 reps, the week after. And then since then, I've just been doing kind of reps 100 kg, trying to get, I got my 12 reps of 100. I'm trying to get 15 reps now, just kind of focusing on that. As well, it is hard to track your progress if you are doing different reps the whole time. So how I track my progress is I'll track 1 rep maxes, and if I don't feel like that week I'm able to do 1 rep max, I'll try and break my 8 rep max or my 10 rep max, something like that. But I do see plateauing a lot. Like, even when I was throwing hammer, I didn't progress there for, I'd say, 2 years. Would it have been between fourth and fifth year? And then I broke my PB by 2 meters that competition. And in the same competition, my next throw was about 2 meters further. And by the end of that competition, I ended up breaking my PB that I hadn't broken in over a year and a half. I think I broke it that day by about 7.5 meters. So, like, if you're plateauing, it's still in you. Like if you're training away, tipping away, and if you're not seeing huge gains, like they're there, they're coming. So like just be patient if you see it plateauing, and it's normal for sure. You can't be breaking your PBs or your lifts or even your race times every month. Like it could sometimes there you could be waiting 12 or 15 months or even 2 years like to just break that cycle like and actually PB again.
And it is all that sweeter as well when, like as you were saying there, like the PB just comes out of nowhere and then it just keeps flowing and you get a massive PB and a massive jump. There's no better feeling, and it really, like, all those days where it's tough to see light at the end of the tunnel, it really does start to all come worthwhile when you do finally make that big jump and your training does start to pay off. So anyone that is plateauing at the moment or is getting a bit disillusioned with their training, the only bit of advice I'd have is just to stick with it and maybe see, is there anything that you could improve upon? Maybe improve upon your recovery, your approach to your training, your approach to your mindset. If there's something you can improve upon, try improve upon it. But do just stay consistent and just keep at it, and eventually your performances will come. If I'm getting into the running specific things I wish I knew as well, one big thing would be having the right performance, like clothing and accessories, and more specifically footwear. And I know that might tie into like having the right sort of accessories when you go into the gym, but very specifically for running, you do need the right pair of shoes. And it's something you're not really told when you start running, and it's something that can be quite hard to know what to get. And when I say that, I'm not saying go out and spend €250 on the Vaporflies, and we could all be out like Kipchoge hitting 5k PBs every week, because there's no need to be like spending that much money on shoes unless you're like trying to get that big performance boost. I'm talking about like everyday runners. You need to make sure that you're getting the shoe that fits you the best for logging all your easy miles. And anyone looking for a shoe like that, I'd say get to your local running store if you can. Any like running specialist stores, they'll help you out big time. If you're in Cork, look at going to the Edge Sports or John Buckley's. They'll help you out big time. And if you don't have any shop like that, Elvery's can be great for it too. There's like two main types of shoes you're kind of looking at. I actually used to work in a shoe store myself, but you're looking at like getting a shoe that either has the arch support or the shoe that doesn't have arch support, and you can tell that by like getting your foot on a foot disc, and it really does help a lot. Not so much in your performance, but more so in injury prevention, because having the wrong shoes or shoes that are really worn, and like your shoes will wear before they're visibly worn, like your shoes, the cushion will go in the shoes, and then you might not have enough support or enough cushion to like support all the impact when you're running, and that's when you get an injury. And there's nothing worse than getting injured, because it really does just stop your training flatline right there, and all you want to do is train, you can't. Have you ever found that, body? Have you had issues getting shoes, or how did you find out how to get like the right equipment or footwear?
Lifting shoes are a lot more straightforward, I think, than running shoes. So I never had an issue with that. Like our coach has pointed us in the direction of what shoes to get, like a raised heel for your squat. It does make the squatting a lot easier. But then with shoes, like there are a lot of accessories in the gym like that you can use. Ones that I'd recommend and wouldn't recommend, I suppose, for powerlifting, I'd recommend getting some lifting straps or some wrist supports. I mean, so just to save those wrists when you're doing bench press or shoulder press, it's like there's no reason that you shouldn't wear them. It's not as if it's going to reduce your gains or anything. Like if anything, it should increase them because your form will be a lot better. Your wrists will be straighter. It'll just be healthier on your wrists. I recommend those. I definitely recommend a pair of knee supports for lifters. Like if you're doing a lot of leg press or if you're doing a lot of squats, get some knee supports. They make it a lot easier, and as well, it does improve your form. Like it'll stop your knees going astray because there's a lot of pressure put on your knees when you're doing that. Lifting belts, then like another accessory, I don't like. I'd wear them in competition, but if you're doing some exercises in the gym, like a few barbell rows, it's best to try and avoid it as much as possible. The lifting belt. If you do find that you need a lifting belt, I'd recommend substituting a lot of core exercise as well. Get your core stronger because, as we said in a different episode, the belt is essentially just support for your core to tighten your core. So rather than using that artificial core, as we call it, do more core exercises. Other accessories then, I suppose, like resistant bands are unreal. Like bring those to the gym. They mightn't have the resistance you want, but then yeah, lifting shoes are fairly straightforward. You have your deadlift ones, which are flat sole. You have your squatting ones, which are like a raised heel. For bench press, suppose you could have your raised heel ones the same as your squatting ones. Other than that, there's not many accessories you need. Like get some wrist straps, get some knee straps, and you're pretty much sorted. Are there any accessories in running really, Ben, like that are quite essential? As well, actually, a gum shield in powerlifting is mad. Like I know you wouldn't assume that you need it for powerlifting, but when I wear a gum shield, like you can bite down it, and you can. I feel like I lift a lot more. Like I don't know, is it a placebo effect or what? But are there anything that you'd recommend for runners to get in?
Definitely haven't tried gum shield for running now. Might help when I hit those track sessions, get a bit more grit out of me. But yeah, like looking at like having a GPS watch can help quite a bit just to track your training and see where you're at. They can be quite expensive too. All you really need to know is the distance and the pace, but you can get too caught up in that as well. Like Paudie was saying there, like your training your core is so important for running. Every movement goes through your core. Do look again, like the smaller looped resistance bands as well, because your glutes like are probably one of the muscles you use the most when you're running. You might not think it, and a lot of people have chronically weak glutes. Like it's very, very frequently. Anytime people go to the physio, it seems to be the most common complaint from the physios is that like people have really weak glutes, and I think it's from sitting down all day. And you do need to make sure you activate your glutes and strengthen your glutes by using that resistance band. And it can be very easy. Just get a loop resistance band and look up a few of the exercises online. Also, make sure you get your hands on some sort of foam roller or a foam rolling stick, because you're putting a lot of load through your legs and your muscles are going to get really tight. So you just want to help loosen yourself out a bit. And foam rolling is not so easy to do. Just do it for 10 or 15 minutes every night, and your legs will thank you for it big time. As well, do try invest in a nice pair of running socks. I used to like completely disregard that for years, and then once you actually get a nice pair of running socks, it just really changes the game. You don't want to be running 6 7 miles and get a blister, or just have your feet get really uncomfortable. In terms of shoes as well, I didn't really touch on like specific shoes that I'd recommend. I'm currently running in the Nike Infinity Run, so that's like they're kind of like softer and more cushion style of shoe, along with the Vomero. Looking at like 160, 140 euro price point, that might be a nice one for anyone getting introduced to running. If you don't want to spend that much on a running shoe, I know Paudie is running in the Nike Pegasus 38. That's always a trustworthy shoe for people. I know so many people I train with also run in the Nike Pegasus. If you're looking at the other brands, then look at the likes of the Brooks Ghost, and this is all if you don't need arch support. If you do need specific arch support, look at like the Brooks Adrenaline, the Hoka Rahi, the Saucony Guide. The Saucony Ride is a good one if you're a neutral as well. There's so many out there. Do look online, do shop around. It's not going to make a massive difference in terms of your performance. You just need to make sure you get that bit of cushion and take the load off the legs, because you're putting a lot of impact through your legs. And like Paul was saying there, you're putting a lot of impact through your knees with the weightlifting, and you're putting a lot of impact through your knees every single time you take a step and run it, especially if you're on the road. And that kind of ties into my next point, is to vary the surfaces you run on, because when you're running on the road, it's a lot harder surface than say running on the grass. And running on the grass can be so good for just saving your joints. It's going to work your muscles a bit harder, but it's just going to help reduce your risk of developing any injuries. So do just vary it. Get out on the hills as well. Just vary the terrain as well. It's going to be a lot easier on your legs, and you're just going to reduce your risk of injury. And that's the main thing. You don't want anyone out here getting injured. It's really going to just put a whole like damper on the whole training thing. It's not really going to be too fun. Sir, anything else you kind of want to touch on, Paddy?
Not really. I think those things I said there, like that I wish I knew before starting lifting, and even during lifting for anyone who is already in the gym, like just to keep an eye out and just to remember, just set a routine, nutrition, just keep an eye on your food, and as well, don't take bad days off. Like use those as fuel, because again, the gym is kind of therapy for people. So that's all really. I couldn't really say much more. Do check out the Sleep podcast and all the other podcasts, because they're all amazing. Keep an eye out as well for YouTube channel coming soon. Do you have anything to add there, Ben?
Yeah, no, as Paddy was saying, thanks to everyone as well that shared and gave us feedback too for all the podcasts. It really does help us keep it going and just helps keep us motivated as well. And if you have any questions, say if you are starting to go to the gym, especially with the gyms opening up, make sure to reach out to Paudie on Instagram at Podrick O'Callaghan. I think I got that right, Paudie. Or if you've any questions on running or nutrition, reach out to me on Instagram at Leen.Eats. Leave us a comment on YouTube. We could even get to it in a next podcast. And if you have any questions that we didn't touch on here, make sure to let us know. We'll get to it. Other than that, I'd say that's about it. So, yeah,